I obviously think we need to be a little more outspoken. Our personalities, we're so focused on creating our lifestyle, fatherhood. You know, I don't want to say we're harder working than the Democrats, but come on, let's be honest. You know, someone's got to pay the taxes and everything else.
So come on, Kamala Harris pays her taxes.
But I think we need to be a little more outspoken. Just how, you know, the other side is. We need to be a little more outspoken. We need to work together. I think we have a tendency to fight amongst our own sometimes where I think that kind of sets us back. So we need to work as a team, be loud, and obviously just use the processes in place. I don't think it's a time like everyone's like, oh, we need to have the revolution, you know, let's get together and storm the White House. And it's like, we're not there, man. No. We're not there.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of The Bullpen. Today, I've actually got a guest for you guys that I'm so excited to be introducing you to. This is someone who I've actually been personally looking forward to meet in person for a very long time. Been following this guy for quite a while. His business is one of my favorite places to go in the entire world, and I'm not mincing words when I say that. If I get a free opportunity, I low-key want to just go hang out at this place. It's so incredible. Neal Currey. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate
That's
you,
one
man.
of the best intros I've ever gotten.
I'm about to introduce you a little bit more, man. So Neal Currey, for those of you who are living under a rock and have no idea who this guy is, I'm going to just give you guys kind of a little rundown real quick. Neal Currey is a Utah native, former Army Ranger with the 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, and founder of Ready Gunner, which is the place I was talking about, my favorite place on earth. It's like an adult Toys R Us, right?
It is. Yes, it is.
For mature adults, not the liberals. One of the coolest full-service gun shops in the country and a Second Amendment media marketing company that helps firearm companies gain exposure on social media. Adventure has always been Neal's blood. By the age of 18, he had already conducted 3 first descents on whitewater rivers around the world. I did not know that. That's pretty dope. He conducted 3 tours in Iraq as an Army Ranger to both Afghanistan and Iraq. Neal conducted an additional 2 tours in Iraq as a personal security specialist to U.S. politicians. So you were doing private contractor work there.
Yeah. Most people knew it as Blackwater. It eventually turned into Triple Canopy, who I was working for.
Oh, wow. So, okay, well, I want to ask you about that. Yep. So in between this, Neal worked for a company called SRATS, Specialized Reconnaissance Assault Transport Systems. That's a mouthful right there.
Yeah. Like every military abbreviation,
Yeah, that's right. SRATs. What was it? SRATs?
I just call it SRATS.
SRATS, there you go. Yeah. Look at me not knowing how to say shit. Well, there he helped in the production of SRATS A1, a vehicle specially designed for special operations units in Afghanistan. Neal's biggest accomplishment is being the father of 6 and being married to his dream wife, Casey Currey. Neal, dude, I'm so glad you're on, brother.
Thanks for having me.
There's a lot to unpack here, man. You've done some crazy shit, right?
Yeah. Been around the block a little bit.
You could say that. You could say that. But at the end of the day, man, like, I really mean, like, I love going into your store. And here's the thing about that. That's just one thing. Like, okay, it's a cool store. But in order to create an experience like that, in order to create a business like that, it takes a lot of fucking effort. It takes a lot of work, a lot of dreaming, a lot of planning, a lot of structure, and a lot of heartache too, right? What people understand is when I see a place like that, I know there was a lot of ups and downs, a lot of heartache to get there. It takes some serious gumption to get where you are. So what I really want to, like, this gives us an idea, but like, what's your story? Like, what made you this guy?
Well, so childhood, my father, I think the family business, my dad he was an adventure traveler. He had a whitewater rafting. It was more than whitewater rafting, but let's say whitewater rafting, trekking, hiking, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
International. So my grandpa, my dad's dad, owned a company called Western River Expeditions. It was one of the first companies to run rivers on the Grand Canyon.
Oh, wow.
My dad worked for him as a guide for years, and then he kind of branched off, did his own thing. Yeah. And then, me following in my dad's footsteps, started working for my dad. I was rowing boats by the age of 14.
Wow.
And
that's a big deal to be one of the first to, have because that's a big deal now.
Yeah, he's been doing it since the early 60s.
Wow.
Early 60s.
That's huge.
So, I mean, he's essentially one of the pioneers of whitewater rafting in the nation.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, huge. You know, he's well known in the industry, and following in his footsteps, I kind of started doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. And my dad was known for international whitewater rafting. So he did a lot of first ascents around the world, the Figueroa, the Futaleufú in Chile, South America, China, India. I mean, this guy went everywhere.
Wow.
So I traveled, by the age of, I think it was 18, 19, I'd been on every single continent on Earth.
Holy shit.
And mostly whitewater rafting, like you said, first ascent. So the Sutlej River in India, I was one of the first to run that. The Figueroa in Chile, the Cara, and the Amazon rainforest, which was a gnarly trip.
Wow, I bet that was.
So had that adventure lifestyle as a kid, and always liked it. Rock climbed, ice climbing, pretty much anything you could do in the outdoors, I've done it.
You're pretty much born outside.
Yeah. Oh, I spent so much time. I mean, my summers I was living on the river, just camping out on the side of the river, and then on my time off, I was camping with my friends back home in the mountains here in the Wasatch Front.
Yeah.
So literally spent most of my nights as a child under the stars, which was awesome.
That's cool.
Best way to grow up as a kid. So with that adventurous sense, I've always had this kind of patriotic feeling, or duty, whatever you want to call it. And September 11th happened, which I think affected every American, right? And that kind of pushed me over the edge to go sign up for the military. Joined the military, but when I joined, I wanted to do something more than just kind of be
just another one.
Yeah, right? Just another soldier, not to take away from those guys, because everybody has value as a veteran. But I wanted to do something top level.
Sure.
So I went in, I researched it, and I first wanted to be like I want to fly jets. I want to fly fighter pilots, and
Top Gun.
Yeah, Top Gun shit,
right,
I want to drop bombs and go to bars and sing karaoke and shit.
Right, because that's what they do.
Yeah, work on my tan. Yeah. That's really what they do, let's be honest.
Yeah, right. Shout out to all you Air Force guys listening.
Just like SEALs.
Yes.
And anyway, so they're like, that's a long road, 4-year degree, everything else. I'm like, yeah, fuck that. Anyway, so I went and talked to the Army, talked to them about what's called an Option 40 contract, Rangers, signed up for that. Long story short, went through the whole training process, obviously basic AIT airborne school, Ranger indoctrination program, got assigned a 2nd Ranger Battalion in Fort Lewis. Did my first deployment to Mosul, Iraq after just being there for a few months. I mean, that unit is just super high speed. Once you hit the ground with those guys, you're just go, go, go. But
jeez.
It
sounds like you were kind of built for that, though.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's what I'm saying.
I loved it. I mean, I was in good shape.
Yeah.
I was one of the not to brag, but
go ahead, brag.
One of the highest PT scores in the unit.
Really?
And I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was tough. It's brutal.
You just use that just to brag on all the other guys.
Yeah,
make sure they knew.
I'm like, I can run way faster than you. Yeah.
You can't
more
do
push-ups, sit-ups.
Look
like,
at
what do
me.
you got? Yeah. But honestly, in my opinion, obviously biased, but one of the best units the military has.
Right.
But the training is tough. And a lot of the stuff I use and the tools and resources to start my business and become a businessman, family man, everything kind of came from obviously my childhood, working hard on the river, and then obviously the military. I mean, learning SOPs and structure, leadership, delegation, all that jazz came really, and really handy in running the business. So
let me ask you a question. I've felt this actually for a long time. I feel like if you're going to go into the military, you got to have a different kind of mind, right? You got to have this bone inside you that's just somewhere in there. There's something different about you that you're willing to do what other people are not willing to do, right? And I've always thought about this when military people, in order to be that kind of guy and then come back, the real question I guess I have is, why aren't more military members and veterans who are honestly thrown into an extreme leadership position at a very early age, because you're going into the military in your teenage years a lot of times, maybe in your early 20s, you're going in at a very early age, you're thrown into a leadership position no matter what. If you're in the military, you're going to have to be a leader, right? So
yes and no.
Okay.
Yes and no. So this is my theory, and this is my theory only. There's probably varying opinions, I'm sure, but I think everybody from the time you're born is wired a little bit differently, right?
Right.
So you have all walks of life join the military, and you can go into different units, different positions, and then you advance just like any job depending on your performance. So different people take things differently. I mean, it's a huge shock when you go to basic training. You have guys, yelling at you 1 inch away from your face. Right. It's completely different than what most people in their life have experienced. PTSD, in my opinion, is falls into the same category where you go in and depending on what kind of person you are, how you're wired is going to dictate what path you go in the military. You know, if you're a certain kind of like type A personality, go-getter, super disciplined, just hardworking, then obviously you're going to go down a certain path. Right. Some people just kind of want to do the basic minimum. And this isn't just for military. This is life.
Straight across the board. Yeah.
Just want to do the basic minimum and just, you know, I just want to get through life, man. I just want to go check the boxes and just get through life. I don't want to put in max effort, maybe not minimum effort, but somewhere in the middle. Military is the same way, you know? So it's like, I'll get assigned to some infantry unit and I'm just going to be, maybe get my E4, do the 4 years and then get out. Yeah. And then that was my 4 years, which obviously I'm not talking down on that because you will leave in that 4 years, even as a specialist with a ton of, you know, resources in your toolbox to apply if you want to apply to whatever it is you want to apply to in your civilian life. Right. Some people take those tools, they apply them. Some people don't. And they just kind of revert back to what they were doing before they joined the military. And they'll just chalk that experience up as hey, it was fun. It was cool. Maybe I learned a couple of things, but at the end of the day, I just want my job at fucking Kinko's back, you know?
Right.
Kinko's, that's still a thing, right?
I have no idea what that is. I'm sure it's some
Kinko's, man. Come on, am I that old? So it's like a.
Well, you had Blockbuster in your day.
That's true. Fucking poor Blockbuster, dude. But yeah, Kinko's is like where you go like make photocopies and shit. But
is that what that? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Kinko's. But anyway, so PTSD, in my opinion, is the same thing where guys get out and you could have two guys who see the exact same shit, have the exact same experiences, but because of how they are and how they're wired, it affects them differently. It's harder for some people. Some people, it's easier for them to kind of like just, you know, tuck it away, forget about it, and maybe it pops up here or there.
Almost harder for them to compartmentalize what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And some people just can't compartmentalize it, and they just have to deal with it more. But again, that's not even a military thing. That's everywhere. That's just like
so it's interesting because every time I talk to someone in the military, right, especially, you know, someone who's done, you know, some crazy stuff, a lot of times they just, because when I think of military, you know, like highest regard, like it's almost like an honor to be in that presence, someone who's willing to sacrifice their life for the country, right? But when I talk to people in the military, they almost always just talk about like it's a job, like it's just any other job.
Yeah.
Which is really insane to me because it's not just any other job, but like they talk about it like, oh, it's just like, it's my job. You know, this is my job, just like your job. You know, this is my job. My job just happens to be, you know,
kicking down doors,
kicking down doors, whatever it is. Why do you think that is? Because I mean, it's not just a job, or would you say? I mean, maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it is. You get a paycheck. You get a paycheck. Right. So, I was at the range once, and we get, I mean, shitloads of ammo. Semi trucks pull up, they back up, and you're unloading crates of ammo. Yeah. And in the military, you have to use all that ammo. You know, if you want the same allocation of ammunition, you know, for the next year, you have to use all that ammo up. So we have
because
100,000
if you use less,
rounds.
They're not going to keep.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you didn't use it all, so next year we're only going to give you 80,000 instead of 100,000.
Gotcha.
Which we never want. We always want the full max ammunition, so we got to dump it. So I mean, we'll be there all night shooting. I remember just shooting at the range. You know, I had my M4, my Colt M4A1, which is what we were using at the time, and just shooting. We're just trying to burn through the sandwich, just get through the day. Yeah. And I remember thinking, I'm like, I get paid. I get paid to come to the range and just dump mags and mags and mags, you know, tens of $1,000s worth of ammunition. Yeah. Which is essentially training for, you know, what our assignment was.
You're training
to kill people.
Right. To kick down doors. Yeah. Fight for freedom.
Find people, capture, kill, whatever the mission was. That was your job.
Right.
And I'm like, I get paid. I'm getting paid to essentially find people and if needs be, you know, make them go away.
Right.
Which was always weird to me. Right. It was weird to me. But essentially that was the job. And it is, I mean, everything. That it was the job, but obviously it was a fulfilling job because you felt some sense of accomplishment. You know, I remember riding in Blackhawks coming off a mission and going, you know, return to base. And you know, you felt like some sense of accomplishment, like you're doing something not a lot of people, like a very small pool of people do in a life. Yeah. So that was the biggest thing I missed from the military. Obviously the camaraderie. Some of my best friends I obviously met in the military. I mean, you go through so much shit with people that you just get this bond with them that you'll never forget. You'll never forget them. Right. And but yeah, so that the tools, the leadership, and it really tells you, especially in the special operations community. I mean, you do shit there where it's like, I never in a million years thought that I could do that, or you know, like Ranger School, for example, like go through 60 days of like little food, freezing your nuts off.
Yeah.
No sleep for that amount of time. Like, it really tests you and lets you know what you can do and what your limits are, if any.
Yeah. Jeez.
So, but
let me ask you something, because something that you mentioned early, like when you're talking about it, is that you had a patriotic bone, early on. Where did that come from? Because not everyone's born with a patriotic bone. I think, unfortunately,
honestly, right? I think the biggest thing was previously traveling to other countries. So when we would go to other countries, obviously you see the lifestyle they have, the admiration they have toward, at least most countries back then.
Right.
Everyone loved America.
Yeah.
Everyone loved America. You go to another country. I remember going to South America and everyone's like, "Oh, are you American?"
Yeah.
Like, tell me about California.
Yeah.
And back then, California was okay.
Yeah,
like
back when California was actually livable.
Exactly, when everyone thought it was cool.
When it wasn't communism.
Yeah. So, but everyone loved America. Everyone loved Americans. You couldn't go anywhere outside of the U.S. and have someone come up to them being like, "Oh, are you from America? Where are you from?" They fucking, like, you were a movie star.
Yeah.
You're a movie star overseas.
I hear that's how it is a lot in the Asian countries as well. Like when you go to Japan, because you said you went to Japan for some stuff, right?
Everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, okay, not every country, but every continent.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So, sorry, keep going.
But anyway, so that was like, we are pretty cool. Like, we do have it good. We do have an awesome country and freedoms and things that most people don't have, and the shit I can do and the luxuries we enjoy. So, I mean, that I think contributed a lot to obviously my sense of patriotism and to be proud of the country I lived in, And I wanted to contribute, not be just like, hey, I don't want to just be a guy who's just, here and taking advantage of all these luxuries. Like, I want to put in some sort of effort toward, that overall effort.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be cool. Who doesn't want to be a special operations guy?
Right.
Everyone wants to be everyone wants to be Rambo.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there were multiple things that kind of drove me to it. And then September 11th, like I said, is kind of the thing that drove me over the top, where it just kind of fucking pissed me off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can't watch that stuff or hear about it, or like, on September 11th, not kind of get a little fire in your belly, like, and that, so it's interesting you say that, right? Because obviously this country's struggling. Right? Yeah. This country's struggling a lot, and it scares the shit out of me, right? Not only does it scare the shit out of me for what I look for my life, but for my kids, like what kind of world are my kids going to live in one day, And that's what scares me honestly to death, because I'm not sure we're going to make it as a country. You go through cycles of any, republic in the history. It's typically about a 200-ish year period, and we've kind of hit that mark. We've surpassed that mark, right? And you go through cycles of, strong men make good times, the whole thing. And we are 100%. There is no doubt in my mind, we had some strong men who create some good times. And now we've been through some good times that have created some serious weak men, which is now leading to these extremely hard times that we are going to go through no matter what. Right. Yeah. And so it's interesting you're talking about this, because I think there's like, especially my generation, in college, here at BYU, at UVU, and some places I never thought I'd hear this shit, anti-patriotism. Like not even just like, we need to change this country, we need to make adjustments. It's anti-American, right? And I cannot believe that is actually a conversation, let alone a mainstream conversation of if you fly the flag, you're a racist. If you do any of this, you're racist, or whatever it is, just that just the tearing down of the foundation of America. I was just watching a video about, the statue of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln being torn down and all this stuff. Right. And it's interesting you say that, because a lot of these people, all I ever think is like, do you have any idea what it's like anywhere else? Right. Do you have any fucking idea what it's like anywhere else? You don't. Because I've been to Mexico a few times, and every time I come home from Mexico, I'm like, thank God, like I'm home, I'm so happy that I'm home in America, right? That's just Mexico. Yeah. Let alone being in any other country, and all I have to say to people when they start talking about this, like, why don't you go try it somewhere else and see how you like it? Right? I mean, like, honestly, if you really hate it so much here, why don't you just go try for a couple months somewhere else? Why don't you go try Iraq, for example, Why don't you go try Mexico not even those countries, like Denmark or other things. You don't realize how good it really is here and what's been created, right?
I feel, I mean, absolutely right. And you get it. Like what you're saying is you get it. Most people don't understand the chronological status of countries from the time
Right.
of Babylon, no
It's true.
no country stays a superpower indefinitely.
Yes.
We always self-sabotage.
Yep.
Just like we're doing now. I feel like this is how it starts. And you're
Yeah.
absolutely right. I'm seeing it, you're seeing it.
Yeah.
I think most people who research history or have any sort of historical, background or,
Right.
or study it, then understand that, hey, this is the process. This is
Yeah.
what happens,
Yeah.
like Rome, Babylon, everybody, like, hey, superpowers, those guys were fucking killing it.
Yeah.
And then, they kind of self-collapse and get raided or taken over by another country, or essentially just collapse from inside out.
Almost always. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I see happening today. And there's still strong men out there, which is good. And,
Right.
and I feel the one saving grace I think America has is obviously there are strong men still in the fight. There's still
Right.
strong men holding that front line,
Yeah.
working together, you,
Yeah.
me, hundreds of thousands of other guys out there. Obviously we're swimming upstream with the battle we have to face with social media and everything else, we're fighting with one hand tied behind our back,
Yeah.
but we're giving them a fucking fight.
Right.
So as long as we can kind of work together and keep that network alive of strong men, I think there's a fighting chance for us, but man, it's a tough battle because we got everything working against us.
So what do we do, Neal? Because I know that's a loaded question, right? But like it or not, you've built an amazing brand that a lot of people trust you, right? A lot of people look to you, you're more than just, a guy who owns Ready Gunner. You're someone who people look to, people follow you for a reason, right? And you're a leader. There's no question about it. You're a warrior, you're a leader. So for the people out there and for me, like anyone else, what do you think we need to do in order to fight back against that and break the cycle? Because that's all. How do we break that cycle that we're almost seemingly doomed to follow unless we change something up? What do you think?
Honestly, I mean, I'm not I don't think I'm like the go-to expert here, but in my opinion, I obviously think we need to be a little more outspoken. So I think our personalities, we're so focused on creating our lifestyle, fatherhood. I don't want to say we're harder working than the Democrats, but come on, let's be honest. Someone's got to pay the taxes and everything else. So
come on, Kamala Harris pays her taxes.
But I think we need to be a little more outspoken. Just how the other side is. We need to be a little more outspoken. We need to work together. I think we have a tendency to fight amongst our own sometimes, where I think that kind of sets us back. So we need to work as a team, be loud, and obviously just use the processes in place. I don't think it's a time like everyone's like, oh, we need to have the revolution, let's get together and storm the White House. And it's like, we're not there, man. No. We're not there. I think we need to use the resources in place. You have elections coming up here in the next couple of years, and we just need to fucking be loud and use those resources to essentially. And we've seen it happening. We saw it happen this last election, right? We had a good wave of I don't want to say good politicians, but the politicians that we hope that they are, take office. Yeah. And we just need more of that. Yes. We need more of that, and then hopefully we can kind of rebound from the shit that's going on right now, and eventually return back to some kind of status quo of what we, were 4 or 5 years ago. Right. And then, so that's my opinion.
I know, and that's a loaded question because that's on all of our minds, right?
Everyone's.
I think it's on everyone's mind every single day, and especially because of social media, like you mentioned, the rate of information is unlike anything else we've ever seen, right? Never in the history of mankind have we ever had this much information this fast, and I think that's a double-edged sword in a way where we can also have a lot more information to decipher, right, on our own, a lot more information to look back on history and to actually look at it, but also at the same time, a lot more information that can be, you really have to dig to know what's exactly going down. It's really hard to know that.
Absolutely.
Right?
And not be influenced.
Exactly.
Like there is so much influence out there to false information, everything else, when it's being pushed down your throat right now. It's insane. So you have to just kind of do your own research, don't believe this is the biggest thing is politicians. I mean, these guys are like marketing geniuses and And we are. I mean, we're all freaking sheep, like these. We look at politicians as our saviors of like, hey, they're gonna get me out of financial debt. They're gonna do this. You're gonna do that. Like, no one takes self responsibility or accountability anymore. Right. It's like I don't count on those guys for anything other than to pave my fucking roads. Right. Which in my neighborhood they're doing a shitty job. So it's like, pave my fucking road,
Right.
and I'll pay you the taxes to fucking do that.
Right.
You know, grow the defense, protect our fucking borders, and then stay the fuck out of my business.
Right.
You know, like that's your fucking job.
Right.
Like the government overreach in the last 2 years has been fucking insane.
It's been tyrannical.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other word for it. It's been tyrannical. You do not reach into our lives and dictate what happens. That's something that I cannot believe that we've allowed to slide this far. And now that we have allowed to slide this far, we realize like, holy shit, they're going to take it a whole nother level, because you give them an inch, they're going to take it a mile. Dude, right.
COVID. I swear I was talking to somebody about this the other day. It might've been my wife. It's been a giant, like COVID, wherever COVID came from, whether it was some fucking lab in
right,
you know, Wu-Tang, China, or whatever.
Yeah, some bat in a soup somewhere.
Yeah, it's just a big fucking social experiment is what it is. So I almost feel like this is what it feels like. I'm not saying this is a conspiracy theory,
for it.
but this is what I feel like.
Yes.
It's been a complete fabricated social fucking experiment to see how much, you know, grab the government can take, like how much they can push the U.S. populace into doing what they want them to do.
Right.
Using COVID as an excuse to do it and seeing like, let's see just how far we can push these people before they fucking snap.
Yep.
You know, that's what I feel COVID has been. It's just a social experiment for the last 2 fucking years to see exactly what they can implement and get away with.
I agree 100%. I don't think this was the thing. I think this was a test. I really do. I agree with you 100%. I feel like this was a test to see how far they could push their limit with the American people. And I am fucking pissed that it has gone on this long. When COVID first came out, I was thinking like, what, you gonna enforce masks? You gonna start enforcing things? Like, who the fuck do you think you are, start enforcing things on the American people? You don't have a right to do that. And then I'm sitting here thinking like they're gonna do this, and I like, we're gonna get pissed, right? The American population is gonna get pissed. It might take a couple months, and they're gonna push back. We're a year and a half, maybe more in, and people are just accepting it like it's life from here on out. I'm like, you don't get it, do you? Like, this is just one step. It never just stops there, right? Then the great trade of anything that's ever happened in history is give me a little bit of your freedom for a little bit more security. Yeah. Right? We need to protect you. We're the government. It's our job to keep you safe. So we're going to just restrict you just a little bit just to keep you safe for now. So that way you can have this. And I was like, okay, all right. And no one ever stands up right away. No a tyrant that's ever been successful stood up immediately from the first one and says, I'm shutting you all down. I'm taking over. Well, that's a very fast
process.
It's a process. Yeah. It always starts small. They build up your love and trust. It starts by taking little by little. Look at Nazi Germany. Look at what happened in Rome. Look at what happened with any dictator. Because what people don't understand about Rome was a republic for a long time, but it was also a dictatorship. And when the dictators, the Caesars, came along and they destroyed the republic, how did they do it? They bought the love of the people, but they also bought their freedom for safety, right? If you look back at Rome, you look back at Nazi Germany, you look back at anything, it's always this trade of freedom for safety. Yeah. And that's the thing about freedom is you're in charge of everything, including your own safety. Whether it's with guns, whether it's actually just taking care of yourself health-wise, right? Our healthcare system, anything like that, you're in charge. And that's scary for a lot of people who don't want to take accountability for their own lives. Yeah. Right? They don't want to take accountability for who they are. And that scares them. So they're willing to trade it off to some politician who makes these promises in his marketing. It's like, we're going to take care of this. You know, I'm your shining knight in armor, yada, yada, yada. And we're all just so happy to just say, here you go. Take the responsibility of my life. I hope you do well, right? Yeah. And that's what's happening in our world. And I think that's happening with the Second Amendment too. Slowly but surely, they're piecing it away, right? That's what we have. And again, this is, I think, you know, Second Amendment has always been such a touchy subject. Every presidential race or election, like the Second Amendment, it's always like one of the front and center subjects he's talking about. The fact that it even is a subject to debate is against the Constitution. Since when, like, let's talk about the Second Amendment. I mean, you went over a lot of stuff, and I agree. Obviously, the social experiment side, in my opinion, is exactly what you said. Like, they go through this process. They're like, we're going to implement this. Yeah. And me and you and most Americans are thinking there's no fucking way they're going to do that. Yeah. There's no fucking way the government is going to, like, they can't do that. Right. Like, that's just pure fucking blatant tyranny. There's no way they do it. Yeah. And then they do it. Yeah. And then we get pissed. And then like 2 months later, we get it. We adapt. We get used to it. And it just becomes the new norm.
And then, they kind of let us kind of
complain
keep us
about
at bay.
it.
We'll complain about it.
Don't do anything about it.
And then they do something else. And then we fucking throw our arms up, be like, this is bullshit. And then we can get used to it, right? And that's the process. It's like they do something, we get mad, we get used to it. They do something, we get mad, we get used to it.
Right.
And which is bullshit. Like we always need to be fighting that shit.
Yes.
The Second Amendment, I mean, gosh, man, our founding fathers, holy shit, those guys must have had like a crystal ball that's seen of the future, right? Like obviously they went through the process, you know, so they knew the importance of arms when the British came in and tried to disarm them and everything else.
Yes.
Like, we know how this fucking goes.
Yes.
We know what happens when you guys take away our guns.
Yeah.
So obviously they wrote that in as the Second fucking Amendment, second only to freedom of speech.
Right.
And it's, in my mind, it's like, I call it the ultimate equalizer. So guns are the ultimate equalizer to everything from a woman's standpoint. Like my wife, let's say she's out shopping at City Creek in Salt Lake City, and she happens to be up there at night, goes down to her car in some underground garage, and two big dudes approach her, like, Casey's fucking feisty, man. I wouldn't want to fight her, but you get two big guys, you're probably going to overpower her. A gun in her purse, which she always carries with her, is the only tool she has to fucking equalize that situation. The only thing that she can do to essentially get herself out of a bad situation.
Pepper spray is just as good. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And I mean, have you ever been pepper sprayed, man?
I have not. No.
That's what I call an area weapon. You know, you pepper spray somebody, you're going to get a little pepper spray yourself.
Yeah,
typically.
That's true. Yeah.
So, and it doesn't essentially disable somebody. So it's like you're taking away the ability for people who can defend themselves to defend themselves. For what? Like, what's the greater good there?
Yeah.
We always talk about shootings and things of that sort, which there's other resources and things that we can do to kind of mitigate that.
Right.
But let's say if you could snap your fingers, fucking Thanos this, and make every gun disappear.
Right.
It's like, well, you look at FBI statistics and reports on instruments used to kill people. There's still plenty of tools out there to kill people. Yeah. You're not going to stop murder. You're not going to stop death.
No.
If anything, you might see more on the opposite side where people can't defend themselves. If there was a way to run those numbers, it's like, look, let's just make guns disappear for one fucking year. See what the numbers do. I doubt it does much, if anything at all. You're probably going to see more rapes, more murders, and things of that sort outside of gang violence, which is like the number one cause of gun violence in America.
Right.
And suicides and people who commit suicide. It's like if they want to kill themselves, it's not like they're like, well, if I had a gun, I'd kill myself, but I don't. So I guess I'll just hang out a bit. Right. They're going to find another way.
I guess
they're going to find another way to commit suicide.
Yes. People are very crafty.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So, I mean, it's kind of, in my opinion, again, this comes back to the whole my conspiracy theories. I have many, but the only reason any government wants the civilian populace not to have guns is obviously for more control.
Yes.
Can you imagine going up against a population where America has more guns than almost every nation in the world on the civilian side?
Yeah.
And that scares the shit out of U.S. politicians, as it should.
It should. Yes. When people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there's freedom. Right?
Yeah.
You should be afraid of us. I don't care who. Here's the thing. If you're a politician, yes, you should be afraid of the American people. That is exactly what should happen. You should be afraid of the consequences of your actions because we will hold you accountable. That is actually how a free society is made. Yeah. Right?
They interviewed, this is a super popular, most people know this story, and if they don't, they should. But after Pearl Harbor, they asked the admiral why he didn't continue to invade and push further into the U.S. And he said he knew, I can't remember the quote
General
exactly.
Nakamoto?
Yeah, Nakamoto. He was like, we knew we would meet a gun behind every blade of grass.
Every blade of grass, yeah.
He knew, you just look at hunting records and gun sales in the U.S., most people have a couple guns.
Yep.
It's one of the biggest standing armies in the world.
Yes.
And that in itself, outside of obviously the U.S. military, which I feel like is becoming weaker.
I agree. Unfortunately,
is the biggest fucking deterrent from U.S. invasion from other countries.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we have the military, we have enlisted soldiers, but we also have this fucking reserve of fucking U.S. veteran civilian population that are armored to the fucking gills.
We got Neal.
Yeah. I got my new MP5. It's sweet.
Oh, I want to see that.
Come shoot it.
Yeah, no, please, dude. Like this sidetrack, I want to start buying more guns. So I want to get like a license. Yeah, I do know. I mean, like I need to get like the full autos and stuff. That's like a fucking year process. And that's another thing with Second Amendment, dude. Like, it's a fucking process to get the actual shit, man. Yeah,
there's this. It's like a revised Second Amendment. It's like the Second Amendment, but you got to follow these certain rules. But for the most part, it's at least in some states. Every state's different.
Right.
It's like the Second Amendment in California is different than the Second Amendment in Utah.
Right.
So, I mean, Utah is one of the greatest fucking states to be a gun owner. I mean, there's very little restrictions here outside of the NFA bullshit stuff you got to follow for SBR suppressors and things like that. But that's still something you can acquire. You just got to do the process.
I'm still waiting on my suppressors.
They just, ATF is launching this new e-form system, goes live here in about a week or two.
I've heard about that. Tell us about that, actually. That's brand new.
Yeah, so previously or right now, it's paper form. So you submit what's called the Form 4 for a suppressor or Form 1 for an SBR. And then it's about an average of 10-month process to get that item cleared and approved by the ATF when they send you what's called a tax stamp, which is a little stamp.
Right.
You pay $200 to the ATF for on top of the price of whatever you bought.
Right.
And then, they'll send that to you in about 10 months. And then now you can take that suppressor home. Yeah. Right. So it was all paper filings before, fingerprints, passport photos, all that shit. You got to fill out the form, answer some questions. Right. We do all our shit through a company called Silencer Shop that has a kiosk, and it's all digital now. It makes it way fucking easier.
Very easy.
Yeah. But now the ATF is launching e-forms, which as a dealer I've always had. We file our forms e-form. It's a digital database where now civilians can essentially use this, or consumers can use this now to submit their paperwork. And Silencer Shop, if you use Silencer Shop, will do it for you. And they're saying it'll take it down to about a 90-day, if you believe the ATF, a 90-day lead time.
Right. Still too long.
Way too long. But 3 months is better than 10 months.
It is. That's true. Yeah.
But that goes into effect. I think they said anywhere between like the 15th and the 24th or something like that.
That doesn't apply to like full autos though, because as a civilian, I can't buy full autos.
No, so full autos is kind of
because that's why you said MP5. I have an SP5, which is
the civilian
version of that MP5, and I fucking love it. But I'm like, this isn't the MP5, man.
Yeah. So there's full autos fall in different categories. So on a consumer basis, you have to buy, and you're stuck to buying what's called the transferable. So when the Brady Act was enacted in 1986 by Reagan, they essentially said, "Hey, all full autos are fucking illegal from this day forward. Manufacturing,
Reagan?
Motherfucker,
motherfucker,
we will grandfather in every existing full auto, but no more can be manufactured, no more can be sold." But what we have in circulation, we will allow people to buy and sell amongst themselves, right? Obviously with the paperwork.
Right.
I think there was something like 400,000 roughly, give or take, in circulation at the time. But when you only have so many things in circulation, going back to 1986, as shit sells, it goes up in value.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted to buy a full auto MP5 now on a consumer basis, a transferable, if you can find one, you're going to be paying in the excess of 30 grand for that thing, because there's only so many fucking MP5s in circulation you can buy. Now, as a dealer, let's say you go out and get your FFL and get like a Type 7 FFL with the Type 2 SOT, you can buy what's called like post-dealer samples, or like if you do demonstrations, you can get them on demo letters. If you, let's say like the local sheriff or chief of police comes to you and says, "Hey, Jeremiah, we're looking to buy some MP5s for our SWAT team." Then I can send a letter that he gives me that's saying, "Hey, look, we're looking to buy blah, blah, blah." Not to go, this is a lengthy thing, but anyway,
I like it.
You submit this letter to the HK, they give you some, you give them a demo, they either buy them, if not, you can keep them for in-house use, but I can't sell them. So I have like a shit ton of full autos that we use for rentals, SWAT team use, things of that sort, demonstrations, but I can't ever resell those to anyone, not even another dealer, especially not consumers. They have to be kept for in-house use. Oh, but those ones, but anyone can get through FFL. Like anyone can go and apply for an FFL and get an SOT, and then you can do that same process. I think that the ATF wants you to obviously run a business if you're going to get it. But,
Right,
I heard for a while, and I don't know if it's true or not. I don't think it is, but I heard they got rid of what's called home-based FFLs. But
Oh, really?
I think you can still do that. But that would be the way to do it.
That's okay. See, that's what's interesting because, like, if I wanted to buy like a grenade launcher, or I wanted to buy a full auto, or even when you have the FFL, if I'm not mistaken, you surpass that tax step, and you get to just buy it right here, right now. Like, I could just walk in, like, here's my FFL,
Yeah, it's
and
a
like,
Form 3.
Yeah, and so like, give me all the suppressors, and I just start buying things, SBRs.
Yeah.
You just cut that time basically out of the process, and now you get to purchase things on a more regular basis. Obviously with restrictions, but you get to start doing stuff like that.
So, like, if I want to buy a suppressor, I go to my distributor or a silencer shop or Dead Air Suppressors, whoever, and I submit a 4.3. It's like 72 hours for them to kick it back, get it approved, and then they can send it to me with that Form 3, and I have to keep that Form 3 with that suppressor.
Yeah.
But then, 3 days versus 10 months or even 90 days, which is what it's going to be now.
Right, about that with the e-forms and all that.
Yep.
So this is actually something I've also heard. I want to know if this is true, especially as owner of Ready Gunner. I've heard that gun sales are higher when Democrats are in office than when Republicans are in office. That is very interesting to me. Why is that?
Obviously fear,
fear
of restrictions, fear of, I think, safety. I think the biggest thing is obviously, so I started my gun store under Obama. So I started Ready Gunner out of my house under Obama, and man, that guy could sell some fucking guns. So that's essentially like, I feel like if I would have started under George Bush or, I probably wouldn't have done as well. But
the best gun salesman in the
Oh
world.
yeah, because Obama, I swear every time he spoke, he was always talking about like assault rifle bans and everything else, and that was the biggest thing. Like, and then Sandy Hook, which is, I don't even like talking about Sandy Hook. Dude. It's one of like the most horrific gun events in the history of this nation.
Yeah.
But everyone was scared. They're like, there is no way something like Sandy Hook happens under a Democratic president and he doesn't implement some kind of a assault rifle ban. So everyone thought they were going away.
Right.
You couldn't find a fucking AR-15 for 6 months to buy unless it was like a $5,000 like gun that somebody was selling.
Yeah.
Used because that's what it was worth.
Well, that was how it was with the coronavirus thing.
Yeah.
Like when I came into Ready Gunner, I was like, I want to buy some stuff, and they're like, we don't got.
We were bare for a little bit.
I know. I was looking at like your thing used to just be full, and then I'm looking, I'm like, where's all the guns, man? All the ammo, the short, like it was crazy.
Yeah.
And so it always stems from fear. Yeah. Then, huh?
Oh, fear, and like when Trump, everyone calls it the Trump slump. When Trump became president, there was a huge slump and people buying guns because everyone's like, hey, he's not going to touch the guns. He's not going to take them away. Obviously, there's debate on this, but a lot of people say that President Trump was actually implementing more gun laws than Obama. But, everyone's all heard about the bump stock. Yeah. Everyone, but anyway, that's something else. And then the last few years have been the biggest years for gun sales, bar none, in the history of this nation. Over every other year, even in the Obama years, which says a lot because, like I said, that guy's one of the biggest gun salesmen in America. So you had COVID. I mean, this was the perfect storm for gun sales. You had COVID, you had the fucking riots, you had lockdowns, and then the George Floyd thing. Yeah. Here locally, we had that shooting down in Provo Center Street.
Yeah, that was right down here. Yeah.
So the day after that was one of our biggest gun sales day in 10 fucking years.
What about like with Kyle Rittenhouse and what happened there?
Yeah, that was more of a national thing. And that wasn't a huge spike, a little bit, Right. And then he went into like the most heated presidential election in the fucking history of this nation.
Right.
You had the Capitol, riots on January 6th. And it was like spike. Like every time something happened, you had a fucking big spike in gun sales. I mean, I got to the point where I was going through distributors, allocation lists, and just buying everything I could fucking buy. Yeah. Like I was doing $100,000 orders on fucking guns and ammo, because I got caught with my pants down when COVID hit. Right. I should have dumped a fucking $3 million in fucking 9 mil, you know? And, but you always think, and I've been through this before. I should know better. I always think like, no, I'll be able to get it. Like I'm, big swinging dick on the block now. Like people love me. I spend millions of dollars with these distributors. They're gonna back me up. They don't. So in this year, we just been. I mean, if you walk into our store now, we have more inventory than we've ever had.
Oh, I love it.
So it's been crazy for gun sales. I was telling Josh, we thought there's no way we were gonna beat 2020. So 2019. was our biggest year. In 2020, we beat 2019 by 400%. So 2021, we're like, there's no way. It'll be the first year we kind of go back and don't beat the previous year because every year has been better. And we beat 2020 by, I was telling Josh, by August. Like by August 15th, I'd already done my full 2021 numbers.
Holy shit.
So I'm like, but I always felt like, it's got to plateau. Like the COVID thing will die down, you know, the mandates will down, and the government will finally return to some kind of level of fucking normalcy, which it doesn't. Like they just keep pushing and implementing. So, but obviously from a business standpoint, it's great. But I also love seeing, getting more gun owners into the hen house. You know, you have more people coming in, and the biggest thing we heard last year was like, hey, I'm a first time gun owner. I've never had a gun. I've never really even been a gun guy.
Interesting.
Like they kind of scare me, and we're like, come on in, man. Let us show you.
Let us show you the room.
You know, welcome to the fold.
Yeah.
And
that's a good
you
way to
get them in the
handle it.
range, you get them shooting, and they fucking love it. They're like, this is not, every time, this is not what I thought it was. This is way different. I actually love this. It's fun. I feel comfortable. It's not scary. Like the Democrats or fucking movies make it seem like it's actually empowering.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Very.
And it's something that they get into, and then they become range members, and you fucking see them like every week. It's awesome.
That's awesome. That was one of the craziest statistics I've ever heard. Is there were more first-time gun buyers in the year 2020 and 2021 than any other year in history.
Oh yeah,
that actually made me really happy.
Yeah,
right, because it showed the people of this country all feel the same thing. You know, like we have to protect what is ours, right? And that to me is what gun sales at the end of the day, you know, reflect to me, is that the people realize that they have to take responsibility for themselves to protect themselves. Doesn't matter what the enemy is, they're taking responsibility on themselves, realizing it's on me to do this or nobody else. As much as we love the police, there's a certain lag time in how fast they can get there, right? As much as we love our military, same thing, you know, especially military and deployment, there's a lag time, right? The best line of defense is you, right? You are your best line of defense. You are the number one thing that's going to deter, you know, like what's going to happen to you, right? I know you guys teach a lot of classes with that. And obviously that's, you know, like, you know, in your world, like what you teach people, but that is it. That's what makes me happy. The one thing that makes me happy about what's happened is there are a lot of people that realize like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I better get my shit in order or I'm fucked.
They get it. I mean, if you haven't learned in the last 2 years that, hey, safety is your self-responsibility, like nothing is going to teach you that. Nothing's going to fucking like get it through your head that like, look, the government's not coming to save you. Like you said, law enforcement, as great as they are not going to show up in a situation where like it's life and death. Like they're going to show up to essentially put you in a body bag. Let's be honest.
Right.
Like safety and the safety of your family. And I say this all the fucking time, is your responsibility and your responsibility only. It is. There's no fucking argument against that. It is.
Right.
And to all these new gun owners, it's like, look, obviously we want to welcome you to the fold and the Second Amendment community. And it's a great community to be in.
It is.
But, obviously training is a huge factor. Like we want everyone who's new to guns to get the training, and obviously get comfortable and be a contributing member of the firearms community. And obviously we don't want to see accidents and shit like that, which is prone to happen if you don't have training and you're just, hey, I'm just going to buy a gun, throw it in my purse and go out and do my thing, you know, and heaven forbid you have to use that gun. You're probably going to be more of a liability than anything else. So,
no kidding.
So get fucking training and
You know, it's funny because what you're talking about before and what we're really talking about here is fear. At the end of the day, what we're talking about here, when it comes to Second Amendment, when it comes to politicians, when it comes to what's happening in this country, when it comes to how we're divided in this country, like all these things, it comes down to one thing, and that's fear.
Yeah.
Right? And fear in a way is healthy. It's actually a very healthy thing, but it's also a dangerous thing, right? When in regards to business, because you said these politicians are some of the best marketers there are, right? Well, the best marketing strategy you can ever implement is to make sure everyone knows who the enemy is. Meaning you have to highlight the enemy. That is the best marketing tactic any business can implement. It's not to talk about the good stuff of your business. It's actually to highlight and point out the enemy, to create fear.
Yeah.
right? To create fear in your business. And whether it's guns, whether you're actually just doing your marketing service or anything, you point out the scary stuff and how you can then help solve that problem. So in regards to our politicians, they're really good at that. But why the fuck are they so good at that? Trying to get in office to get our tax-paying dollars, so they create fear. Because when you've created enough fear and you create an enemy, then it makes people rally together
like,
to
don't
fight.
worry, we'll help you solve the problem with,
Exactly. You have to point out the enemy, right? So the enemy for a lot of, like we could go to you know what's funny though? I blame Republicans just as much as I blame Democrats. Like I if you talk to me about my values and what I love, people would call me a conservative, right? Yeah. And that's very true, like in a lot of ways. But at the end of the day, no, I fucking love this country. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm a libertarian. Like, leave me the fuck alone. And you could do whatever you want. I don't care if you want to do something as long as you don't try to implement it on me and my family, right? But I look at our country and I look at the Democrats and Republicans. Everyone tries to pick sides. And I look at Democrats, I'm thinking, oh shit, like you guys are fucked, right? Yeah. Like I can't believe that. But at the same time, I look at some Republicans and I say, you are too. You are too.
You're 100% right.
Right.
I judge people on an individual basis.
Yes.
Like I don't blanket judge anybody,
Right.
And that goes for everything. Military, you could have like the most high speed fucking unit in the military, and you'll have some shitbag in there, and you have some high speed dude in there,
Right.
Politicians are the same way. Like I'm not a guy to be like, dude, I'm a Republican and all the Republicans are great and those are the guys that we need to, who are going to come save us. Like I'm not a fucking politician guy at all in general.
Right.
It's like, look, obviously I know there's some value there and something that someone has to be there to obviously do the political stuff.
Right.
But it becomes more and more fucking crooked.
Yes.
Every fucking day on both sides of the aisle. I don't even like labeling myself as a member of any party.
Right.
More of like, look, these are my values, and whoever like they align with the most, and you can call me that party, but these are my values, and my values are based on what I believe, not dictated to me by, hey, I'm a Republican and I believe in that because these guys also believe in that. It's
Right.
Like, like I'm sure I have values that, is more leaning toward Democratic than Republican, but I'm a people person, man. I judge you on an individual basis and who you are. Like, if my best, like Josh could fucking hate you,
right,
and think you're a piece of shit, and be like, hey, that Jeremiah guy is just a piece of fucking garbage. I'm like, really? I mean, I don't know him. I gotta get to know him before I can make that judgment on my own, because
Yeah. That's extreme maturity, like to be able to just decipher that, because especially if someone like he's your friend, you almost feel obligated to feel the same way because you're in a group, right? You almost feel obligated to validate what other people are feeling around you and to just create almost like to join in a community, right? We crave that sense of community, but like you're saying, like Trump is actually a really good example. I'm honestly very grateful for a lot of things that Trump did, but I actually blame him for a lot of the shit that's happening now. I think Trump fucked up when it comes to this COVID thing. He was he did, and how much money he printed and a lot of these things. And I look at what's happening in our economy. I say, I know Biden's a dipshit, right? But I look at Trump and go, guess what? That happened under you, right? Trump ain't like I look at Trump and like he printed trillions and trillions of dollars and he was president, right? He allowed the coronavirus and all this stuff to happen. He pressed for the vaccine, all this stuff, and allowed this. So it's just as much his fault as it is Joe fucking Biden or Brandon, whatever we're calling him nowadays, right? It's both their faults because they didn't stand up at the end of the day for what we believe is the Constitution, for the freedom of the American people to make that decision for themselves, right? Yeah. So I look at Trump, it's your fault too. And I got a lot of people follow me who would not like me saying that because they're Trumpers. And I love what Trump did in a lot of ways, but I also look at some of the stuff he did. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
Yeah, this just goes back to the whole politician thing,
right.
Where I'm just,
You ever going to run for office, Neal?
No. Honestly, I don't think I could. I would love to. Again, my sense of like my duty to the country, like I've thought about it, but I don't think I'd put my family through that. And I'm not saying no, but it'd be tough. It'd be tough. And I have 6 kids. I have, 4 businesses I'm running, and it's just, I got to focus on that. And that's kind of my contribution to society. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on now. I
will say, I wish more veterans and members of our military would run for office because I think they get it a little bit more because like we're talking about originally, they get it. They've seen it. Yeah. Right? They've seen it. They've been to all these other places. They've been on the brunt end of it. And I wish we'd have more of them run for office. because
I think we're seeing more of it.
I think we are. I think you're right. And I hope that that trend keeps up.
Yeah.
Because that, to me, that's exciting, that people who understand, like in the military, like you kind of have to see the whole spectrum of like, this is what these policies do in other countries.
In the chain of command. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, guess what? You also understand like what kind of responsibilities you have to take with guns. It like just so many things. At the end of the day, with the military, you are at the brunt end of what we believe in the Constitution of the United States. To implement that, you're the tip of the spear, implementing that in other ways. And you see the bad and the good, right? Yep. So I do wish we'd have more veterans. And I think you're right. I think we're seeing a trend of that. And I hope it keeps up, because I think that would be a huge thing to quote unquote drain the swamp and get new faces in there. There's nothing I love more than to have former members of our military, men and women, serving. You know, like Tulsi Gabbard, I think she's awesome. Yeah. She's a Democrat, though.
Yeah, I know.
I think she's
That's
awesome.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Like if you just say, hey, all the Democrats suck, it's like, Tulsi Gabbard's actually pretty sweet. She's got her head on straight. She makes extreme, very analytic decisions, you can tell, right? And like Dan Crenshaw, I know there's a lot of people out there who are back and forth with Dan Crenshaw. I like the way he handles things. And I'm not like trying to like say, I'm not promoting any politician, but at the same time, I like the way they're handling things in the sense of, let's keep our head on straight. And that's something that comes directly from the military. Yeah. Is when shit hits the fan, everyone's freaking out based on the fear. But you know who's been trained up to handle that fear? The military. Because when you've been in the military, when you've been in that shitstorm like you've been in, that you've seen for years and years, what is the number one thing that will keep you and everyone else around you alive? Keeping your head on straight. Yeah. Not letting the fear overcome you is just like is separating yourself, compartmentalizing what's happening and saying, no, we need to take a step back and take a look at what's happening. And that's why I wish we'd have more members of the military, because that's what they're trained to do. That's what you're trained to do, right? Yeah. Me and my wife were talking about this last night, the, problem solving. Like when people become problem solving, like people, I think it's human nature for people to create, make something a bigger issue than it has to be. Like, oh my gosh, we got this problem, and they make it this huge, big fucking issue. Like it's unsolvable. Yeah. And it's like, look, let's just break this down. Yeah. Like every fucking problem has a solution. Yes. Every problem has a solution. Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's like how I'm going to approach it. If I'm going to panic and I'm going to be like, oh, it's the end of the fucking world and be super dramatic about it, it's probably, going to take me a minute to figure the problem out, where it's like, look, like you said, take a step back. Yes. Let's fucking break this down, figure out a way. And once you get down, it's like, when you're climbing a mountain, it always looks the tallest from the bottom, right? That's true. Like you're liking it, like, holy shit, I'm gonna climb up that thing. Yeah. But as you move your way up that mountain, it becomes smaller and smaller. It's like problem solving is the same thing. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things we I want to teach my guys at Ready Gunner. They're fucking my staff is awesome. The best. I love them. Yeah. When we first opened the store, man, we were going through we had a rough crowd, like hiring people. How do you do it? How do I weed out the ones that aren't so good? And now we kind of fine tune it. We have an awesome staff, but yeah. See how I just transitioned there. Well, yeah, I love it. Right. No, you're right. Because when it comes to being in nature, and stuff, from my experience, what not nearly what yours experience is, but you break it down to okay, we're going to get here first, and then we're going to go to here. You try to break it down as much as you can into compartmentalized situations, and almost just break it down into smaller things, smaller chunks to take off. Right. Yep. Yes. If you're at the bottom of the mountain, it's going to look extremely tall. But if you just set your standard here, right? Okay, let's get here. Then let's get here. Then let's get here. Right. But you're right. I mean, and you're right. What you've done in business, and a lot of entrepreneurs listen and watch this podcast, that's one of the biggest struggles in anything, is breaking things down in your business, because you're right. Business at the end of the day is people, but what it really is problem solving. Businesses may look great from the front, but at the back end of the business, it's a shit show. Yeah. It is. People don't understand that. We put on the front to make it look good. We do everything we can. And you know what happens? In the background, we are running around with our heads cut off trying to fix things. Yeah. That's what business is. You're just fixing things constantly, right? It's never ending process. AT&T, Apple, they're always trying to fix shit. That's what it is. Your business is problem solving. That's essentially what money's all about, what entrepreneurship's all about, what this country's about, is solving problems and taking that responsibility on yourself. And that's what I love about entrepreneurs like you, because, I honor you for your service, but what you've done even more so is you've built a brand, you've put your message out there, and you've created an incredible business that I believe in. It's not just a business where you're selling, cupcakes, right? Yeah. Which I love cupcakes, nothing wrong with that business, right? But you put yourself into a very important place that I appreciate, because it stands for something, right? And at the end of the day,
at the end of the day, you did that because you wanted to solve problems, right? Because you took responsibility. The entrepreneur is the one, because everyone looks at problems, they say, that's a problem. There's a lot of people out there pointing out all these problems and issues, and they say, that's a problem, but then they just sit back and say, someone should do something about that.
Yeah.
But it's the entrepreneur who almost just takes responsibility for it, but takes it personal. You know what I mean? Like you take it personal, you say, fuck that, I'm going to go change that shit. Yeah. You know, I'm going to go, all right. I got this, right? And that takes a badass motherfucker to do what you've done, to be that kind of entrepreneur, to build one of the most incredible, you know, gun businesses, but honestly, just businesses in general, because you do so much more than guns. People, if you're watching this, go to Ready Gunner right now. You have to see what I'm talking about. It's one of the most incredible business feats, because like we were talking about before this, I wish we had that on camera. If you go to any gun store, it's usually dirty. It's usually, you know, just real raw,
poor
rugged.
Customer service.
Yeah. And it's not to say, but it's just rugged. And that's kind of comes with the trade. But you've taken a whole new atmosphere to it where Ready Gunner is dope, man. Like I would go in there just to hang out, right? Just to hang out, just to be in there. It's a fun place. The people who work there are some of the best people just to talk to, shoot the shit, talk guns, whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. And it takes a certain dude to do that. So I think it's incredible what you've accomplished, brother.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
That's the atmosphere. I mean, what you just said, that's the atmosphere we wanted to create from the beginning, you know.
You've done a good job.
Like you said, we went, I mean, I was obviously a gun shopper back in the day after the military, and you go into gun stores and it's shitty customer service. Yeah. You know, shitty displays. The atmosphere was horrible. Yeah. And you hated going there. Right. But it's like every gun store was the same. Like that was the standard for gun stores. Yeah. You know, 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why is every gun store this fucking way? Yeah. Like, I ain't like going to a gun store. You get treated like garbage. You treat you like a fucking idiot. It's like, I was in special operations for 6 fucking years. Right. And then you're patronizing me when I'm asking you about a fucking Glock 19. You know, it's like, oh, that's not how you hold it. I'm like, motherfucker, and I hold a gun. But
that's actually a great point. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, someone's got to do, and obviously, you know, the whole Second Amendment thing, I'm like, what's more American than putting guns in the hands of the civilian population?
That's right.
So, yeah. But yeah, that's the atmosphere we want to create, and I think we've done a good job of it. And hopefully we can just open more stores across the nation. You know, that's the goal. So yeah, dude,
that's gonna be exciting. I hope you. I know you will. There's like no question in my mind that you're not gonna be.
It's
able
in
to
the
do
works.
That.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Where's your next location gonna be?
Oh man, I don't know if I should say this. Ogden-Layton area.
Ogden-Layton area.
Yeah. That's I think the first time I've announced that. Everyone's always asking, you know.
Announcement on the bullpen. We got another Ready Gunner coming to Ogden-Layton
all
area.
the gun stores out there gonna be so pissed.
Woo! Yeah. I love it, man. Well, if there's anything you'd like to leave our people with, what would it be?
Nothing. Just honestly, the biggest thing was like we just said. Obviously, safety. Safety is your responsibility. Just be a good fucking person, man. Be a contributor. Don't be a non-consumer, you know?
Yeah. Hey, there's one thing I know you stand for is being a good dude, doing the right thing, and sometimes, you know, falling on his face when he's shoveling his driveway.
That was my ass in my head. I had a headache all day. So I had to see that. Hey, I'm going to take that pain and I'm going to give it to the internet for people to laugh on. I just want to make you laugh.
I love it. If you guys want to be entertained, if you want to have a good time, go to Ready Gunner here in Orem and wait for that new location to open up. You guys got to follow this guy at Neal, Neal. We'll link all this at the bottom descriptions, and make sure you go follow Ready Gunner, because probably one of the most active gun pages I've ever seen. They're always posting shit, making me want to buy more and more. And so if you don't want to buy more, don't follow them. But if you want to buy more, make sure you follow Ready Gunner. Brother, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to have you.
Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for having me.